Hi students, today we're going to be learning about complex numbers. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to add, subtract, and multiply imaginary numbers. By definition, the system of complex numbers consists of all expressions in the form a plus bi with the following properties. A and b are real numbers, and I squared equals -1. As you're writing this down, make sure you put a star or a box around this part that I squared equals -1. We're going to be using that as we start multiplying. You can use addition and multiplication as if a plus bi were a polynomial. And this will be more like review from a couple chapters ago. Okay, let's start with adding and subtracting. So the directions say to write this as a complex number. So looking at these two expressions here, again, we're going to treat it just like a polynomial. So all we need to do is combine like terms. So in this case, we can see the number 3 and 2 can be combined, and 2i and -5i can be combined. So let's go ahead and write that out. So first, we're just going to group them together so that it's easier to keep track of the work. So we have the 3 and the 2 together, and 2i and -5i next to each other. Now combining, so 3 plus 2 is 5, and then we have 2i minus 5i. So really we're just going to subtract 2 minus 5, and that becomes -3i. So just as before, we're using these like we do polynomials. Now look at example 2. This one is using subtraction. So before, when we did this with polynomials, we need to distribute this negative sign. So we're going to do that first. Okay, so we have the same part at the beginning, 3 plus 2i here. And then distributing the negative, we get -2, and then negative times negative gives you a positive 5i. Now we're just going to combine the like terms and write them together. So we can do 3 minus 2 gives us positive 1. And then we're just writing 2i and 5i right next to each other so that we can combine those parts next. And then 2i plus 5i is 7i. And that's the final answer. This should really be a review for us. Let's go ahead and do multiplication. So with multiplication, we can treat these as two binomials, kind of like polynomials, and use the FOIL method to distribute here. So let's go ahead and do that so you can see what we get first here. So first, 2 times 3 is 6. Outer. There's the first. Outer would be 2 times I, so we get 2i. Inner, -2i times 3 is -6i. And -2i times I is -2i squared. So now we need to combine like terms and simplify. So remember on the last page what you put a star next to or circled. I squared equals -1. This is important as we simplify with multiplication. So let's see what comes next. We can just write the 6 below, and combining 2i and -6i, we get -4i. Now notice how we simplify the -2i squared. So I write -2 here, and I squared gets replaced with -1 because I squared equals -1. Simplifying from there, we're just going to multiply that out. So we get 6 minus 4i, and then -2 times -1 is positive 2. Combining like terms, we get 6 plus 2, which is 8, and then minus 4i. Okay, let's try one more multiplying this out. So we're going to FOIL like we did before. So first we have 1 times 1, which is 1. 1 times -i is -1i. The inner terms, we've got I times 1, which is positive 1i. And then I times -i is -i squared. Okay, let's go ahead and simplify, keeping in mind that I squared equals -1. Okay, look at our next step. So we wrote the 1 here. -i plus 1i, those cancel out. Negative 1 plus 1 is nothing. And then look at the negative I squared. So we have the negative sign here, and then I squared is negative 1. So don't forget to put the negative 1. That becomes 1 plus 1, which is just 2. Okay, students, you guys try these 3 examples, and I'll see you in class tomorrow.